We are seeing $23 million worth of GameStop shares being purchased, all which are being routed to the dark pool, as well as something weird happening with deep in the money puts, suggesting a big move to the upside in GameStop share price. AMC also just got some news dropped today. AMC Entertainment Holdings announces successful closing of comprehensive financing transactions that strengthen the balance sheet and position the company to prosper from robust box office recovery. Guys, there's a lot of FUD regarding AMC's new announcement where they raised capital and it was actually good for the business. Technically, I'm going to explain why very briefly. Right now, AMC is limited to raising just 50 million or 25 million shares via at-the-money sales in the 6 months after shareholder approval. So already off the bat, shareholder vote has to happen for any sort of dilution. But if AMC trades above 200% of the soft call trigger price, the company can then raise unlimited cash via at-the-money offerings, which is worse for shareholders but better for the company because they are doing it at a higher price, which builds more capital, which makes the bankruptcy risk a lot less plausible, right? In short, higher stock price equals access to much more capital for AMC, as well as avoiding shareholder approval. Now, if the stock rips, note holders can convert to AMC at a favorable price, aka selling high, which is more upside than just being paid back in cash. So note holders also will want the stock price to rise 200%. AMC will raise massive capital via at-the-money offerings, reduce debt, build cash, avoid bankruptcy risk, but also give you a little tiny squeeze of 200%. Now, this structure creates a shared motive to see AMC rip 2x the soft call trigger price, and if that happens, it unlocks all the financing, maximizes note holder profit, and improves AMC's survival odds, which is like giving Wall Street and retail a short-term reason to want a short squeeze. Now, before we get into the charts, that is the latest news that we got on AMC, and we are also seeing just that euphoric feeling slowly start to creep in. It's not peak yet, but YOLO posts being posted on Reddit, $800,000 YOLO posts, posting 2021. YOLO posts are coming back. People are saying, what is going on? You know, why is this randomly happening now? Well, you know why, and it's because of the charts, which we'll talk about in a second. Now, this is also a little bit of tin, but the Roaring Kitty TikTok page, which we assume was his TikTok, reason being, if you're not caught up way back when Roaring Kitty did come active recently, in the beginning, this link was in his YouTube profile very temporarily, which is kind of strong evidence that this is his, but you know, believe what you want, maybe it's not. Although it says class begins next week, he changed the bio. Now, I want to talk about all of this. I'm seeing something happen where we could be lining up for something very specific. Bitcoin just got a recent sell-off, dropping all the way down to 115K. Partially because Galaxy Digital sold off 30,000 Bitcoin overnight, which obviously would drastically drop the price. Now, we also entered this red region, which we are on the weekly time frame. This is the second week, which case it would be red. And likely coming into the weekend, you would see probably a lot more red in crypto, or at least Bitcoin. But it doesn't have to happen. I'll explain that in a second. We also saw a little bit of a sell-off with XRP, other altcoins, and they are showing somewhat stronger momentum to the downside on some of them. Again, XRP still holding strong at the 786 on the fib, but we also saw Dogecoin as well take a deep dive, and we'll talk about that in a second. First things first, I want to talk about the correlation to 2021 and what we could possibly be seeing. Why, first of all, why is there any sort of correlation? Why do we even have to talk about that? Why can't we just look at things on a single chart basis? Well, the reason being is because you have to take a look at why Bitcoin is selling off. Other stocks are selling off, but the SPY is continuing to basically be 100% resilient and push to the upside. No matter how many indecision candles we get or fake out candles to the downside we get, the SPY is resilient. We're at 637. Back here, I said we're probably making our way to 644 based on the momentum that we are seeing. Do we still believe that is the case, even with crypto selling off? Yes. And let's talk about what happened during 2021. During 2021, first we'll take AMC and GameStop. Between early January, January 5th, and January 27th, this is what you saw. Obviously, you saw this squeeze. You saw the same squeeze with AMC. But if you look at altcoins, we actually saw them pump a little bit and then get a massive retracement for the time being while capital rotated into AMC and GameStop, squeezing them. And then when they started to crack down, we saw these things start to happen, right? Buy button was taken away on the 28th. AMC GameStop started to tank. And then Dogecoin, other altcoins, Bitcoin as well, began to get capital rotating back into them. But for the time being, right, we saw Bitcoin drop about 30%, right? And then we saw altcoins like Dogecoin from the peak. Okay, well, I'd have to reset the chart. It's going to move my chart. But you can see that there's a substantial drop right there. So this capital reallocation didn't affect the same way that it did with the S&P 500. In fact, during the same time period, the SPY remained resilient all the way up until the day that the buy button was taken away, January 26th, actually until the day that they peaked on the 27th, right? The SPY still remained resilient until the capital absolutely had to rotate from big stocks, the top 500 companies in the S&P 500, the 500 companies by market cap, had to, take some capital from big money and get out of these positions. All right, we are seeing a very, very similar setup. In fact, we are also seeing, this is the Japanese 10-year government bonds on the weekly time frame. A lot of people are wondering, hey, why are you bringing this up? Or you didn't even talk about GameStop. All of this ties into GameStop. Bitcoin ties into GameStop. The market ties into GameStop with big money. And the Japanese government bonds and how their economy is doing and what they're doing with the US all ties into what is going on, because there's a bigger picture than just the plain out market that a lot of people don't understand. There's swaps involved. There's settlement dates involved. And there's settlement that doesn't even settle involved, right? You can go down the line. Point being, all of this ties in together. Now, the reason this also lines up is because of exactly what we've been expecting and anticipating, which is the charts playing out something similar like this, or at least some sort of cycle that lines up like this. AMC or GameStop, just from a fundamental perspective, along with AMC, very undervalued. AMC recently got a $4 price target. We're trading at 328, right? We're also building a spring here. We're also building a spring here for a possible move to the upside. Basically, we want to hold $3.23. That's something I'm watching right now. As far as GameStop goes, I would look for it to base at 23, no lower, and then squeeze coming into next week, begin this sort of melt up phase. I will be adding calls coming into the weekend. And listen, guys, I'm not telling you what to do. I can't tell you what to do. I don't tell you what to buy, hold, or sell. I'm just telling you what I'm doing in my opinion. I don't give financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Moving on, I want to talk about a couple other things. JP Morgan says crypto stablecoins will be integrated with the traditional financial system, as well as more tokenization of real world assets. Trump suggests the government could issue rebate checks to Americans from the tariff revenue collected this year. So a possible stimulus check. And then I want to talk about a couple of stocks. AMD is at 166.30. Talked about this. We've covered it for a long time. August 5th, they report earnings. And I do believe coming into earnings, you could possibly, I'm not saying it's going to happen because I believe big money's buying this up. You could possibly have one more chance at buying this under $160. And we have to watch it very closely because I think after earnings, you're not going to get that for a very long time or forever. Okay, so I'll put that out there right now. Another stock with a great setup is Cheesecake Factory. It recently sold off on earnings a little bit, but it recently tested price discovery. This is a weekly time frame. It's forming out a beautiful cup, and I'd say this is more of a long-term play here. After we break above this fib level, there is a ton of room for upside right to $100. So again, you get a weekly candle close and then open above 67.50. You're likely to have a longer-term move up to 100. Plus following that. INTC completely missed on earnings. They got slammed. They cut more of their workforce. They are down in the dumps all the way down to this liquidity pocket at $20, which I think is still a buy zone. I told you even if earnings were bad, I'm buying it up. I lost on call option YOLOs. It's down 9%. INTC, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Again, there might be other plays. I'm not loading the boat on INTC, but I do believe it's still undervalued for a long-term play. This isn't a short-term play. It's a long-term play. Last but not least, going into the weekend, since we didn't cover a ton of specific short squeeze plays that I usually give you, because again, we're going into the weekend, we got to do a lot more analysis, all that other good stuff. GNS is one where I do believe it's probably in my best interest to grab it and hold it overnight coming into next week. Will we bleed off Monday? Maybe, but that's what stop losses are for. In my opinion, they could have some sort of catalyst coming out. They're working behind the scenes, and it's only a matter of time before GNS actually makes its move. I don't think what it did do was the move that it was supposed to have. I think this was just the beginning of the melt up, and GNS could very quickly come up to $3 plus on any sort of catalyst, in which case from where it's trading at right now would be about 185% gain, and I do believe it could possibly go higher. I don't want to hype this up too much because again, these companies can fail in their lawsuits and things that they're trying to get done. But overall, guys, that is what I got for you for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed watching or found value out of the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, the top link in the description is for the Discord server. Get in here. We talk stocks and crypto all day long. Post my trades as soon as I take them. We have tons of alerts in there, in which case if you went somewhere else for these alerts, you'd be paying hundreds of dollars a month for. But again, you get it at a one-stop shop. Cheap Discord for the value you get out of it. Do not sleep on it. Get in. Again, guys, especially for the weekend, so we can come chat, talk stocks. Big group chat, best people, best vibes. There are no bad questions. Surround yourself with like-minded people like yourselves. That is it. Check the other links in the description. Enjoy your weekend. I love you all. God bless. Lottery Stocks out.